Welcome everybody to the Co-op Supper Club. Thanks so much for spending time with us tonight. Really looking forward to the next hour, which is going to be full of hacks, hints and tips about how you can make the most out of your festivities coming up in the next couple of weeks. I'm Mark. I'm sat here in the Innovation Kitchen at Co-op's headquarters at One Angel Square in Manchester. Now I'm going to help you through the sessions today and ask your questions and make sure we're keeping to time. But actually the real stars of the show are our expert panel who are joining me tonight. We've got from our product development and innovation team, so I got it right that time, we've got Dan and Rachel. And then we've also got from our beers, wines and spirits team, Sarah. So for those who've been involved in these events before, you'll recognise Sarah. She's been here for quite a few times. So thanks very much, Sarah, for coming on tonight. Now, as I mentioned, for those people who have been involved in these before, you'll realise this is a little bit swankier than we normally have. But at its heart is exactly the same thing we want to try and do for members, which is to give you access to the brilliant people who produce our products and services every day, and importantly, to answer your questions. So you'll notice on the Zoom call, we've got a chat function. We want you to talk on the chat function anyway, tell us about what you're up to and what your plans are for Christmas, but make sure you put lots of questions down on there. They're going to appear on my screen in front of me, and I'll make sure that we're asking questions as we go through for tonight. Just a couple of things to finish with is that we have got a prize draw tonight. It'll be drawn at the very end of the session. We've got 5 £20 vouchers that you can use in Co-op stores to help to support your Christmas plans, or to get some things to get together with other people, or maybe even donate it to a local community fridge or community food bank. It's up to you, and we'll do that draw later on tonight. So we've got lots to pack into the next hour. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce you to Sarah, because to get the party started at any good party, there's nothing better than a cocktail. So over to Sarah.
Absolutely. So I'm going to try to show you a cocktail that you're welcome to join doing at home. And the idea is that you don't need any fancy ingredients. You're not going to need some weird liqueur that you've never heard of and can't pronounce. And you don't need any swanky cocktail gear. So all I'm using here is a jam jar. And you need a lemon and some jam and some gin. So if you want to, feel free to grab those ingredients and join in, but I'll show you, and Terry can share the recipe afterwards. So instead of, if you haven't got a shaker, you can use a reusable cup or anything that's got a lid. And I've just put half a lemon and some ice in there. And I am using a cocktail measure here, but you can use an egg cup instead. And that's just with our Irresistible Gin. So that just goes in like that. Our Irresistible Gin is something that we developed with you guys over the course of the last couple of years. So we gave you some different options for you to choose botanicals. And it's a great gin for enjoy for winter. If you like sort of a more zesty one in the summer months, this is a bit more spiced. It's got a lot of coriander in it. So if you like brands like Afir, it's quite similar to that as a sort of spicy winter gin. So you've got your gin in there. And then you're just adding a couple of spoons of jam. And this is where you can play around with get different flavours. So I've got raspberry jam here. But if you wanted to go blackcurrant jam and do more of a bramble style, that's absolutely fine. You can also, if you want to make it a bit more Christmassy, try something like cranberry and port sauce. It'll be a bit sharper, but feel free to have a play around and see what works. And you're just going to make sure you put the lid on, whack it around. And then you can just use whatever fruit you want as a garnish and just pour it into your glass. Trying to keep the ice out, but there we go. So there you go, that's one Christmas cocktail. If you're not a cocktail fan, then definitely I'd recommend trying some champagne. So we're really proud this year. We've won the Which Award for Best Champagne. So that's for our members, Le Pionnier Champagne. So that stands for Pioneers, after the pioneer founders of Co-op. If you're not so much of a champagne fan, so champagne is made differently to Prosecco because it stays in the bottle in contact with the yeast, so it has a sort of biscuity, rich sort of brioche flavour, and a sort of toasty aromas, and is a bit richer. But if you prefer a more fruity style, then I'd stick with Prosecco because that's made in a tank and it's got a lot more of the sort of fresh fruit character to it. If you wanted to adapt either of those and make those into a cocktail, then an easy one to do is just to use a splash of cranberry juice. And then you can use frozen cranberries, and that's also an extra little thing to keep your wine cool at the same time. So if you keep them frozen and just put them in, then they look really cool because they'll float around in your glass and keep your champagne cool at the same time. So thank you very much. And I'd say that either of those, but either the cocktail or the champagne or Prosecco, go really well with our crisps, which Rachel's going to talk about, because they work really well with salts. You've got the high acidity of the sparkling wine there that really complements those.
Fab. So we know our customers love coming into the Co-op for our crisps. We know we're famed for them. Really impulsive, great flavours. Really highly recommend this year you try some of our seasonal flavours. Returning favourites in our Pigs in Blanket hand-cut crisps, as well as our ultimate roast potatoes, both excellent flavours. And for this year, we've got a brand new flavour, which is our hog roast potato crisps, taken and inspired from kind of those Christmas markets that we love and kind of missed last year. But hopefully people are managing to get out to and enjoy this festive season. Party food and the party occasion was something that we really wanted to get after this year with our range. We know that last year's Christmas was a little bit pared back for some people, and therefore this year, all being well, people want to kind of get back together and really kind of celebrate the party season. So some of our kind of recommendations in terms of top products would be our Irresistible Sea Salt and Chardonnay Frosty Stackers. It's a really playful take on our crisps actually, which we are kind of famous for. And we get lots of Instagram and kind of Twitter feedback on. And that's just referenced down at the left down there. Another kind of really fun product is our macaroni cheese, 3 cheese cups. Again, just to play in really simple kind of British classic flavours in a kind of bite-sized format, ready for your kind of party season. And then into our kind of core range, our kind of standard tier offer that's all in a kind of 3 for 2 deal, perfect for just bunging in the oven and easy entertaining. We've got a delicious Christmas dinner spring roll. We've had loads of really fantastic press about this year, and I'd really recommend it. So it's all those kind of Christmas dinner flavours with a nice kind of cranberry dipping sauce. We have some lovely pizza pinwheels, again, really great family fodder, suitable for kind of popping out at any party occasion. And then we've got some hot and spicy breaded prawns, which kind of a real kind of takeaway favourite, but brought to you for Christmas. So that's a kind of little flavour of our range in terms of party food. I'm now going to hand over to Dan, who's going to show you how to do a little grazing board if you've got a little bit more time in your hand and you don't want to use our convenient solutions.
Thank you, Rachel. Yeah, so Rachel's talked through the delicious sort of party food that we have, but I'm going to show you how to perhaps pimp up one of our own brand hummuses with lots of different sides and some flatbreads as well. But we've got some other great products that you could perhaps customise slightly yourself. One of which being our Grow Vegan Bake, which is a vegan cheese bake. It's got roasted red pepper and spring onion through there. It's really delicious. You wouldn't know it was vegan in a good way. And additionally, we've got camembert in store, really nice to kind of pimp up with your own breads, or perhaps putting some harissa or some honey on top of the camembert, really sort of elevates it. And additionally, crisps we've kind of talked through. But we've obviously got lots of things in store to create your own dips if that's what you were looking for, maybe a whipped feta or making your own hummus, all of the stuff we have in store to do that. But yeah, without further ado, I will show you what we're doing today. So this looks really impressive, but is actually really easy. So here I've just sort of prepared it earlier. We've just got some of our own label hummus, and I've just put some cayenne pepper on there. And then I'll talk you through the kind of pickles and herbs and whatnot that you can put on top. But first off, I'll show you the flatbread. So this flatbread was just equal quantities of self-raising flour and yogurt, and then I just put some herbs through there. So I put some oregano, but you could leave it plain, or you could put any other herb in there really, dried herb, and then just a bit of salt. So really easy dough, and then you literally just make it and it's ready to roll out straight away. I've cooked some off because we're live and I can't do them all at the same time, but I'm going to show you one. So that's just part of the dough. You don't need to evenly separate it out. I just pinch off bits of dough as and when and kind of make any sizes. It's quite a wet dough, so you want a good bit of flour when you're rolling it out, and you don't even need a rolling pin. You can literally just roll it out like that by hand. Make sure your hands are nice and floured because it does like to stick. And then you want a reasonably hot dry pan. I've just put a tiny bit of oil and then sort of wiped it out because it helps create a bit more of a crust on there, which I personally like, but you could just do it plain.
Does the lack of oil kind of stop it going greasy because it's just kind of giving you a little
Yeah,
bit of
so it's kind of that like almost stone-baked pizza sort of bottom, but a tiny bit of oil without soaking into the dough, you'll get a nice caramelization on there. Make sure your pan's hot before you put your flatbread into it because it will just sit there otherwise, especially with the oil in. That feels pretty hot. So I'll just leave that in there while it cooks. And and wipe that down slightly. I'll have to use my cloth because I don't have a bit of kitchen roll. And then, yeah, like I said, just some hummus, spread that out. This, like I said, looks really nice on the table and really impressive, but all these little quick cheats are really easy hacks to kind of elevate it further. So first two things I've done is just some radishes, I've thinly sliced, and some chilies. And into that, I've just added a bit of red wine vinegar and about equal quantities of sugar, but you can just kind of do that to taste, and a good pinch of salt. And you literally just leave that for like an hour, and you could use any vegetable you wanted to here. I like the fact that everything's kind of separated. If you wanted to leave this all out, people could kind of build it as they want to, because obviously some people like chili, some people don't. But generally, it just looks really vibrant, and it's just such an easy thing to do. So some of the radishes on there, flatbread's cooking.
And this feels really kind of Instagram ready. We know lots of our shoppers really want to kind of entertain and kind of showcase their best in terms of their best self on Instagram and Pinterest. So this is a really great way of kind of bringing that to life.
And then I've also just done some chives. You could put whatever herb you wanted on there, really. Just kind of mix it pop a little bit more. And then the last one, which is my absolute favourite, this is some comfy garlic, which sounds scary, but is very, very simple. You just peel garlic cloves, quite a lot, because you can make quite a lot of this and keep it in your fridge for a couple of weeks, and then cover it in an oil. I've used olive oil because I'm sort of using it in this format, but a neutral oil would work well because you can use this on loads of different things. And yeah, you pop your peeled garlic cloves in a container or a pan, cover it with olive oil, and then put it either on a really low heat on the stove. Just turn this over. There you go, you can see that's starting to cook nicely on the bottom. Or you can put it in the oven at 120 degrees for about an hour. Cover it in tin foil if I didn't say that. And then, yeah, take them out, you leave them to cool, and you can just leave them in a jar, or you can put them in a tub. And it's kind of that like garlic bread caramelized kind of flavour, and it's really good to use on roast potatoes or use for sides of veg if you're a bit lazy and don't want to kind of cook off or fiddle around with the garlic. You just chuck a couple of them in, and it'll give you a really delicious caramelized garlic flavour. But I'll just pop some of them on the side there. And then again, like I say, you could kind of use whatever you want here. I'm just using a bit of chili oil, but it's open to interpretation, really. There's all sorts you could do with it. And it just looks really impressive. It's good for having friends round, or just a bit of an alternative midweek meal. Christmas is obviously very heavy, and it's nice to kind of break it up with slightly lighter meals. So that is flatbread, and here's some that I just cooked off slightly earlier. Always wanted to say that. And there we go. It's really, really simple, and yeah, I think is an impressive centrepiece to have at Christmas.
Is it normal yogurt or Greek yogurt? Does it matter what yogurt you use?
Not really.
No.
Plain, obviously.
Just plain yogurt, yeah.
Important.
Yeah.
You don't want to use strawberry
Not
yogurt.
yogurt,
But
no.
yeah, Greek or Greek style, it doesn't really make a difference. It all sort of works. You might need to play around with how much flour you put in, but you can just kind of feel. You saw how I sort of applied it around. A rolling pin, to be honest, is really difficult. It's easiest just with your hands, so really accessible anyway. But yeah, I'll hand back over.
I've got a quick party red to add as well, I think, before you go to main course. So we've got, some of you may have come to the tasting we did with David from Bodegas Aragonesas in Campo de Borja, so that's the producer in northern Spain, and they specialise in making this garnacha, so it's an old vine garnacha. So what does that mean? Some of the vines used in this wine are over 80 years old, which is incredible, because once vines get to sort of 15, 20 years old, the yields of grapes they produce really drop, so a lot of producers pull them up and replant, and it's more efficient for them, they can grow more volume. But it's important for us to keep the old vines going, so we've been supporting them. And also, they're old bush vines, they're not trellised, so they have to be hand harvested rather than machine harvested. So it's a really important source of labour in the area. And it's a project we've been involved with for a few years now. And it's a lovely party red. It's only £5.50. It's nice, sort of quite soft acid and tannins. So if you've got people that are a bit scared of some sort of more structured reds, it's a really fruity, easy drinking wine. And it's 3 times now, including this year, where it's been featured in the Times Top 100 Wines, and we're really proud to have it in our range. So, cheers.
Cheers.
Wow. So before we go into mains, we just thought we'd touch on some simple starters. So if you haven't got Dan's culinary skills and you want to kind of just get some table-ready solutions, we highly recommend our Irresistible smoked beech and oak smoked salmon. It's been in the range for 3 years, well, for a long time, but for over the last 3 years, we've won a lot of awards across that SKU, and it's a real firm favourite with our customers. If you want something a little bit less fatty in terms of mouthfeel and something a little bit lighter, we also have our Irresistible honey and whiskey cured trout. Again, something really special as a starter that you could easily kind of pimp up and serve as your starter for Christmas Day. And then if we move on into kind of main courses, kind of what's our recommendation, what new stuff have we got this year? So this year we're doing our first ever top tier premium turkey. So we've got a special rare breed Welsh Pembrokeshire turkey that we'll be launching this year. It's a sort of charcoal silver colour, so very different to your traditional turkey with kind of nice silver vibrant feathers. We know that turkey is kind of not always to everybody's cup of tea, so we've got a number of different options that we could kind of offer as an alternate, but I know Dan's got some quick hacks in terms of turkey and how to get the best out of it, so it'd be really great if you could share those with us.
Folks, can I just jump in first just to get some member on
sure.
that first part before we move on to the mains, because we've got a few. So, Sarah from Rebecca Allen, thanks very much everybody for all your questions and keep them coming in. I'm getting them on here and picking some out. Sarah, in your cocktail recipe, could you use marmalade instead of jam?
Yes, you could. I think it would be a bit more bitter, but if you like a style like a Negroni or something that has a bit more bitterness, then I think that would work really well, actually. Yeah, definitely. Let me know if you enjoy it and like it. It'd be good.
Fab. On the flatbreads, Michelle Inwood, thank you very much for your question. What flour was used to make the flatbreads?
Sorry, it's self-raising flour, which is fairly important because it helps give that rise and you don't prove it. So, yeah, self-raising flour and any sort of plain yoghurt.
And then one from Jennifer. Thanks very much, Jennifer. So, based on the starters, are any good recommendations, Rachel, around if you've got kids that have got dairy or gluten allergies at all?
Let me have a think about that. My memory bank, and I'll come back to you at the end of the questioning.
No problem at all. So thanks very much. Keep those coming, and we'll keep putting them to the panel as we go. But so we're going to move on to the main. So sorry, I interrupted you just as you were going to start talking turkey.
Yes. So I'll start with turkey. These bits you might know already, but it's some good tips to bear in mind. Always good to follow a recipe because it's a big bird to cook. But take the turkey out well before you're going to cook it and make sure it's come up to room temperature. Meat cooks much better when it's at room temperature because it will sort of firm up if it's still cold and it goes into the oven. So that's tip 1. And then before you come to cook it, make sure you dry it, wipe it down with a towel so it's not got any sort of water left on it because that will not help it crisp up. Depending if you're stuffing it, you obviously make your stuffing and you pull your skin away from the breast side and stuff it. Put something in the cafetiere, like a clementine or some dried herbs. And then generally the rule I follow is for every 500 grams of meat, so you weigh it at the end, it is, I'll remember it now, 20 minutes at 180 degrees. So you calculate what that is, depending on what the weight of your total bird is, and then cover it in foil, cook it, but you take the foil off 45 minutes before the end, so it just crisps up the meat really nicely. And then resting is really important, especially with turkey. We all know it can dry out quite a lot. So rest up 1, maybe 2 hours. Just make sure you cover it in foil, put tea towels over it so it keeps that heat in. But it won't go cold and it will just tenderize everything and the juices will kind of flow nicely. But then other sort of hacks, which are probably more obvious, but plan ahead, use your freezer. No shame in that. There's lots of different components to a Christmas dinner. Don't forget about your veg, like sprouts are absolutely delicious roasted. A lot of people obviously boil them, but yeah, a few different ways I do them, but one of my favourites is probably fried off with some bacon, and you can literally just half them and throw them into the pan as they are and roast them off, and add in some sort of cooked chestnuts. You can buy the pouches in supermarkets. so that's really delicious. And yeah, likewise with the rest of your veg, roast it, put a bit of vinegar or honey on it, make sure you elevate it because they're also absolutely delicious. And yeah, roast potatoes, get your oil hot before you put them in is a good tip. Once you've parboiled them, ruffle them up. I think a lot of people know that, but it's really good to let all the steam come off. Water generally means things will go less crispy and caramelise yet less. So yeah, good tip if you have time to let all the steam come off once you've boiled your potatoes and get that oil really hot. I think that's everything I can think of, but any questions, pop them in the chat and I'll hand back to Rachel.
So I think Sarah's going to do a nice pairing to go with your turkey.
Yeah, well, I've got a few options. So just going back to your salmon and the fish starter, so the fish stacker as well, I'd suggest a white. And you want something quite zesty and acidic because it's going to cut through the saltiness of the fish and also sort of work really well. Imagine that squeeze of lemon that you normally put on fish. Think of the wine as that squeeze of lemon. So some examples we've got here. We've got our Irresistible Lleida Valley Sauvignon Blanc. So that is grown in Chile. It's in a site that's 7 kilometres from the sea. It's really zesty, fresh, quite grassy, a bit more sort of greener than in style than a Marlborough New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc. And it's made by an award-winning winemaker. She's won Best Winemaker 3 times, and they've just been voted most sustainable winery in Chile at the moment for this last year. They're made with a 100% renewable energy, solar panelled winery, and they're doing a lot to reintroduce new plants and biodiversity in the vineyards, which is fantastic. And then do you want me to talk about turkey ones as well? I have a red and a white option here, so depending on what you prefer to drink. So we've got, also from Chile, Irresistible Pinot Noir. So if you think turkey's, it's a white meat, but you want something that's quite fresh. This Pinot Noir, I think, is quite a good halfway house if you've got people that like red and white wine. So because it's a bit lighter, it has lower tannins, so that sort of mouth coating feeling that you get in the sort of more heavy reds. You can also serve it lightly chilled as well if you want something a bit more refreshing. And this particular wine, I think, is fantastic because it's got a lot of flavours of red berry fruit. So think your cranberry sauce, but in liquid form. It works beautifully with a Christmas turkey. But if a red wine isn't your thing, I'd suggest either going down the Chardonnay route. A lot of people are scared of Chardonnay because they think of it being super oaky, but it's definitely changed in style these days. So I'd perhaps suggest an Australian Chardonnay. We have an Irresistible Australian Chardonnay, which I recommend as a slightly richer style rather than a Chablis, which is a bit leaner and more acidic. So you want something that's got a little bit of creaminess and richness that can sort of balance both with the turkey and with the trimmings. Or alternatively, if you fancy trying something a bit different, then I've got the Irresistible Marsanne. So that's a little lesser known grape variety, but from the south of France, from the Languedoc. And it's sort of a bit, if you like, a sort of Viognier, a little bit sort of nutty, honeyed style. And again, that's a slightly richer white that will really stand up to all the flavours that you've got on your table. Okay.
So if turkey's not your thing, this year at the Co-op we've really kind of focused about having some kind of different alternates to the main course. So we've got a really great beef joint. So it's a picanha, and I keep pronouncing that incorrectly, but hopefully, so correct me if I'm wrong. So a picanha beef joint with a porcini butter. It's absolutely delicious and won multiple awards this year. It serves 4. It's a really great centrepiece dish if you want something a little bit different. It is traditionally found in sort of South America, so that's where it's kind of originated from, come over from Europe and slowly kind of coming onto restaurant menus. And it's a really tender cut, so it's from the rump cap of the cow, and that means it's super tender and it cooks really evenly. And actually, if you serve it in the right way and carve it correctly, you can kind of carve against the grain, so it's got a really tender, nice kind of mouthfeel. If you're not into beef and pork's more your thing, then we've got also an Irresistible pork crackling joint with a bone marrow jus. So really nice kind of elevated centrepiece. Again, something slightly different from turkey, but something really great to kind of show off to your guests. And then we've got a returning favourite, which is over here in front of us, which is our Muscovado baked gammon ham. Not necessarily for Christmas Day, great for kind of Boxing Day, kind of those kind of get-togethers, everyone coming round, something really simple to bung in the oven, but really kind of tasty and a great visual kind of centrepiece to kind of build your buffet around. So I'm going to pass it over to Dan. If you have kind of overbought on the turkey, which everybody tends to do, Dan's going to come up with a great recipe in order to get through all your turkey leftovers.
Yeah, so again, we've gone for something a little bit lighter, given everything over Christmas is fairly heavy, so slightly healthier but really delicious and a nation favourite, I think. So what I've essentially done is I just need to bring some stuff over.
While Dan's preparing, do you want to talk through any of the recommendations with those kind of dishes of beef and pork?
Yeah, sure. So I don't want anybody to think that there's a hard and fast rule at all with pairing wine and food. It's really not about getting things wrong at all. And if you would want to have champagne with Rogan Josh curry, feel free. There's no right and wrong. It's all subjective. But what I've tried to think about is, and tried to perhaps talk about and explain a bit more here, is why things perhaps might work well together. So I touched on before, if you've got something really salty, then high acid works. If you've got a fish, again, think of it, you want a more acidic white because it works like a lemon juice. If you want something if you've got something creamy, then sometimes an acidic white can cut through. Or you might want to think about, rather than trying to cut through that richness, you might want a similarly creamy white. It's entirely whatever your preference. Now, in terms of the turkey match I explained, but then when you've got other meats, that perhaps have a think about the sauces that go with them. So Rachel talked about the Muscovado gammon joint here. So that's obviously got some sweetness to it. So you probably want a red that comes from a bit of a hotter climate where it's got a bit more ripeness to the fruit, a bit more richness, because it'll balance out with that sweetness. So you want something a bit more full-bodied and perhaps a bit less dry than you might find from Europe, for example. So I was going to suggest for that, for example, you might have your Irresistible Shiraz or something Australian, or you could go for a nice Malbec, might work with that. That would also go really well with the picanha because you've got that mushroom character in the sauce again, which is this umami character. Now, if you had a really structured dry red, that could seem a bit bitter with that mushroom sauce. So think again about jammy, ripe reds to counter that. And then for the crackling, you might go back to being a bit more traditional and think about the fat will actually make a more structured wine seem a bit softer and riper, so you might enjoy it more together. That's about complementing the flavours. So that's why I brought in the Irresistible Rioja here. Got a nice additional story. We're trying to do more and more with our wines where we don't have fair trade. So in Europe, fair trade is obviously doesn't really exist, but we're trying to work more and more with producers on projects. And for the Irresistible Rioja, for example, something that the producers worked with for a long time is converting former sex workers and training them in alternative careers in hospitality. So we're supporting that through the sales of our Rioja. So that's a nice Christmas story there as well. Thank you. And I'll let Dan carry on with his turkey.
Thank you. So yeah, what I've done is just a bit of leftover turkey meat. Doesn't really matter if it's breast or thigh or whatever. And just roasted that in the oven. But I put some oil over it and a bit of Chinese 5-spice. This is probably slightly too crispy, but the good thing is with this is you're looking to get that texture, so you can't really dry it out because you want that kind of crunch to it. And then at the end I've just put some hoisin sauce over it, and that's it really. Then you can buy your pancakes. If you're struggling to get the Chinese style pancakes, you could just use wraps instead and perhaps cut them out or just leave them as they are. And then I've just got some bits to go with it. So your classic cucumber, which I've just finely sort of shredded, but doesn't matter on your knife skills, you can do it however. Some spring onion. So this probably looks quite familiar now. That's one of my favourite meals. And then, yeah. And then,
It looks delicious.
just to make it a bit more festive, a bit of pomegranates, nice bit of sweetness.
Big question, Dan. Did you buy the pomegranate and get it out yourself? Or did you buy the
I didn't know, I
pre-bought?
was lazy. And then you don't have to put these on, but it just sort of adds another layer of flavour and different textures. I've got some crispy onions. Here I've got some chili flakes and some sesame seeds, but it just makes it look a bit nicer, to be honest. But additionally, a nice flavour to have. But if you're struggling to get that, you can just do it as the meat and the other bits. But that is it, essentially.
Delicious. Any questions,
Oh,
Mark?
we've got lots of questions. Thanks a lot to everybody for putting those. So I'm going to quick fire them so that we can get
Do
through
you want
them.
me to wrap up the last question? I've thought about
Absolutely.
it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's a really good call.
Your starter option. So we have a number of lines in our frozen party food range, but also our chilled range this year that are free from, and they make kind of great elements to build up a starter. That's what I would recommend in terms of something really family friendly.
So look out in store.
Look out in store and in the
ask
chiller.
colleagues in the store if you want.
Yeah, obviously be really careful, mindful of his allergies, double check all of the back of packet information and really know what you're serving, especially if you're catering for people you don't necessarily feed all year round.
Fab. Okie dokie. Right, we're going to rattle through some of these. Roland Davis and Jules, thank you very much for your questions. Which wine would you suggest, Sarah, with lamb or lamb shoulder?
I'd go the Rioja again. So if you ever spend some time in Rioja, they actually have, it's one of the things that they do where they'll have almost like a pizza oven and they slow cook a whole lamb for hours and then it's sort of the go-to food there with some roast potatoes. So I think the Rioja is a great shout.
Great stuff. And to continue that, so Dean Collier obviously likes something a little different for Christmas in seafood and fish. So which wine would complement that kind of food?
Again, I think the Sauvignon Blanc's a good shout, but if you want something, if you're doing a more aromatic sauce, for example, with if you something with a bit of spice or a bit more stronger flavour, then a Viognier can work well because it's got sort of a peachy flavour, a bit slightly floral aromas, and gives it a bit more richness. It goes with sort of tagine type dishes as well, but also with a more flavourful fish.
Fab, thank you, Sarah. Right, okay. Now, Dan, you have mentioned this before, but maybe a little bit more detail, and it's a question that lots of us have got. DP Armstrong, what is the best way to cook sprouts?
To cook sprouts, so like I said, the other recipe that I said with bacon and just fried off in butter and chestnuts, delicious and really easy. But another way to cook them, which is equally delicious, and is kind of a cheats way of cauliflower cheese, which can be a bit of a faff to make, is... Again, you add some bacon into the pan, some lardons, and you colour that off and get it nice and crispy and caramelised. Take that out, but keep all the fat in the pan, and then add in some halved sprouts, and you just roast that off in the same fat. Get some nice colour on there. They'll start to cook. Got to remember all this now. Put your sliced garlic in, colour that off a little bit, and then put your bacon back in. A bit of double cream. And then you sort of reduce that down slightly. You can put a bit of corn flour in if it looks slightly thin because you want that almost white sauce, cheesy sauce kind of consistency. And then you can just top it with some parmesan, some breadcrumbs, and you put it under the grill or a hot oven. It's really easy. You don't have to spend ages making a sauce and prepping cauliflower. And yeah, equally delicious. So that's another recipe. Low calorie option, yeah. But that's why we've got the healthier options here to balance it out. It's all about balance.
Fab. I think, Rachel, this is one for you, and thanks, Lita, for your question. I know others have been asking this as well. So, any recommendations you have for vegan, vegetarian options?
Yes, we've got a really exciting new offer this year, your complete Christmas dinner. So we have a faux turkey-style joint. We've got vegan gravy, stuffing balls, and pigs in blankets. So we have the whole offer catered for you at the Co-op. So there's no compromises. If you're having a turkey and you've got some vegan guests round, they can have something very similar texturally and look and feel. It feels very much like a Christmas dinner.
That's fantastic. So you know where to go now, Lita. And then one final one for the mains, and I think for Dan, from Jules. Thanks very much, Jules. My dad used to slow roast turkey overnight. Is this still a good idea?
There's many different ways to cook turkey. I think everyone will give you a different recipe. I'm sure it does work, and there's, like I say, there's many ways to do it. But just choose the way that feels comfortable and easiest for you. Like I said, my way of just kind of knowing your weights and how long you should have in the oven for that weight is a pretty easy way of doing it. But I think the key bits are, like I said, just taking it out, bringing it up to temperature, resting it nice and long, and you can't go too far wrong. Making sure it's cooked as well.
Fab. Thank you very much. Thanks very much, everybody. I think we're going to move on to desserts now. So, but keep your questions coming. We've got lots more time to do that. I'm going to hand over to Sarah.
I haven't got the ice cream part to show you, but I just wanted to say that if you want a really, really easy dessert, I'll show you what this looks like in a glass, actually, so you can just see. I'd recommend trying our Irresistible Pedro Jimenez Sherry. So I don't know if any of you have tried it before, but it's made with dried grapes. So if I just pour some in a glass, you see it's completely brown like that. And it's like, imagine you've put a mince pie in a blender. That's exactly what it tastes like. It's absolutely fantastic. And if anything tastes of Christmas, it's this. So a really easy dessert is just some plain vanilla ice cream or some salted caramel ice cream is also really nice, and just drizzle it over the top. And if you're feeling fancy or you have leftover Christmas pudding, you can fry up a bit of that and put some Christmas pudding crumbs on the top, and it's a really easy dessert as well. It also, if you make espresso martinis, you can substitute it for the sugar syrup. and have a sort of Christmassy twist on your espresso martini. So that's my tip. But I'm sure Dan has plenty more. Yeah.
Yeah. We have got one sort of quick dessert to show. Shall I do that first?
Yeah, dessert time.
So, a bit different to what you might expect for Christmas Day, but Christmas pudding is obviously quite divisive, and this is just a really easy alternative to do. I just need to grab one more tray out of the fridge.
So Dan is utilising our triple chocolate profiteroles in order to build this. So it's part shop bought, part finish yourself, but you can take all the credit with your guests at home.
Yeah, so again, it's one that just looks really impressive, but is fairly simple to put together. So we've got our chocolate profiteroles here, and this is loosely a deconstructed trifle, but there's really just a load of things that taste nice, to be honest, together. And you can put them into fancy glasses like this, or just put it on whatever. But that goes in there. And then in here, all I've done is put about 300 mils of double cream, and then 2 heaped tablespoons of Biscoff spread. We have a known label equivalent. I think it's crispy spread. It's a bit of a mouthful, but you can find it in co-op stores, and it's really delicious. But 300 mils of double cream, 2 heaped tablespoons of the Biscoff spread, and I've just put a bit of Baileys in there. Obviously, I don't have to use the Baileys, but it's a nice boozy addition. So yeah, I'll just...
If people aren't aware what Biscoff spread is, it's also lotus biscuits. You kind of see it on lots of menus popping up now. So you see quite a lot of cheesecakes, and dessert stalls have it, but it's lotus biscuit flavour.
Yeah.
Without the branding.
Yeah. Where was I up to? So we got that, and then we've got some caramelized banana here. All I've done with these is put a bit of sugar onto them, so you just dunk them in a bit of sugar, doesn't matter what sugar. And then I use the blowtorch. I expect most people don't have a blowtorch, that's fine. You can just put them under a hot grill or put them into a dry pan and just caramelize the sugar slightly. And then you get the nice sort of caramelized side on one of the pieces. And you can just kind of put that in how you want. And then, again, really easy. Got some Biscoff biscuits. You could use any biscuit just for a bit of crunch that I've ground up into a bit of a crumb. Put that on top. And then just to finish, just got a bit of our Irresistible dark chocolate. Just grate a bit of that over.
It looks really impressive for something you've just literally whipped up in a couple of minutes.
So like the only effort that we've got here is making the cream, which literally took me 30 seconds because the Biscoff spread really helps thicken it up quickly. But that's it. Pretty impressive, really delicious, and nice and quick and easy to put together.
Fab. So if you don't have Dan's skills or not the time to do it, we have a lovely range of kind of desserts at Co-op this year. If you've seen our Co-op magazine, you'll see on the front of it we've got our delicious Irresistible Bells and Baubles. It's a really fabulous dessert and won multiple awards this year. It's a chocolate orange flavour, kind of layered mousse with hints of blood orange and a kind of nice crunchy base. It's absolutely delicious and it's amazing value at £8 this year. It's also fair trade, so you're also doing good by buying it. But if you want something else with a little bit more texture, a slightly different flavour profile, we've also got another award winner from our range this year, brand new, which is our Irresistible Millionaires Roulade, which is here. So that comes from our frozen fixture, really easy to kind of defrost over a couple of hours and just pop it out before you serve your main meal. Lots of texture, lots of flavour, and kind of a really nice visual centrepiece to serve on the Christmas table. If kind of desserts isn't your thing, or you've kind of overindulged during the meal and you want something a little bit lighter, we obviously have a lovely range of mince pies. Again, we've done really well in kind of all the taste tests this year, and our Irresistible mince pies have been recommended across a number of different publications, which is great news. So if you haven't got any mince pies in stock for Santa, definitely go out to the Co-op and get yourself some. Again, a bit like a Christmas pudding, mince pies can be a little bit polarising, so we've got some kind of alternate flavours that kind of offer you a different kind of mince pie experience without the mince pie flavour. So for the kids, we've got this gingerbread and toffee tart. It's something I actually developed in the range 3, maybe 4 years ago, but obviously a firm favourite with customers. Super accessible at £2 for £2 from our ISB fixture, and kind of a really Moorish treat for the family, really accessible. And then if you want something a little bit posher, we have down here at the end is our Irresistible Bourbon and Bitter Orange tarts. It has got an element of mincemeat, but it's kind of got that kind of whiskey cocktail flavour with kind of a bourbon cream on the top. So really delicious and a little bit more luxurious. Maybe not something for the family. And then something a little bit different that we brought to the market this year, but something we're really proud of, and something I know our colleagues in the office have been kind of asking for, where can I get this? It's just landed in stores over the last few days. It's our Irresistible Chocolate and Orange Wreath cake. It's great as a party cake, to be honest. It's great to just have in the cupboard if you've got people coming around and you need something really quick to serve, and it's really delicious, really rich, really unctuous, and also carries our signature flavour of chocolate orange this year. So it's a really great solution. But if sweet things aren't your thing, obviously people love cheese from the Co-op, and we have got our cheese developer with us today, Dan, so he will be able to tell you how to build a great cheese board and kind of what to look for from the range.
Yeah, so we've got loads of great cheese options in store. Some of our kind of all year round products that you can find all year round, but great for a Christmas cheese board. So we've got our Irresistible Roquefort, really sharp, tangy and delicious. Some Irresistible Red Fox, which is kind of like a red Leicester cheddar kind of cheese. Some of our Irresistible Extra Mature cheddar from Wyke Farms down in Somerset. That's award-winning and really delicious. But we've got lots of other products in store. We've got the vegan bake that I talked about. We've got Camembert that you can kind of customise yourself. We've got Wensleydale stars, which are flavoured with cranberries in a nice sort of innovative star shape. And one's flavoured with almost like Christmas flavours, really, like ginger and clove and things like that. Stilton, obviously, always a favourite at Christmas time. And yeah, any other irresistible or standard cheeses are perfect for the cheese board. Loads of crackers in store with lots of great chutneys. So yeah, definitely lots of products to choose from your cheese board in store.
Definitely an opportunity if you're a port fan to bring your port in as well. We've had a long relationship with tailors who make our own label port, and I know we got involved with you guys. Over 7,000 of you got involved with our review of our fortified wines and actually redesigned the labels, which is fantastic. I've got the Ruby port here today. I know those of you that weren't involved with that, we did sort of 3 different label designs, and then members voted for this one, which is, it shows the Douro River in the Douro Valley, which is where port is produced. So this Ruby port is a great one, particularly for blue cheeses. So you've got that saltiness of the Roquefort or Stilton as well, that sort of tangy, more powerful flavours really counters up the richness of the fruit, so it's quite a good combination. And for some of the desserts that Rachel, perhaps like the wreath cake, for example, that Rachel mentioned before, I'd suggest a tawny port. And one of the things that people often, they try and have just tawny port out the bottle, but I'd really recommend serving it chilled. It sort of dampens down the sweetness, so it doesn't seem quite so sweet, and that has some sort of dried orange peel flavours that would work really well with the wreath cake. And I think it's one of it's something that perhaps just try a small amount and see it worth experimenting with different styles of port and see which one you prefer. Yeah.
Thank you very much. We've got lots of questions, so I will plough ahead. Thanks very much, and this is your last chance really to kind of add any more questions in for everybody. I'll start with one which, to give you a bit of time to think, I've got an answer for once. That's brilliant, isn't it? So, Philippa Smith, you're trying to have a more sustainable Christmas this year with a low carbon footprint, and have we got any tips about how we can make things more sustainable? I
have one tip. Our non-food team have been working incredibly hard over the last few years to kind of really strip out plastic and make our range sustainable. So this year, all of our wraps, gift tags, crackers are all really sustainable and plastic free. Plenty in store at the minute, so really recommend you get out and get your stuff from Co-op, but no film, no wasted material, all just ready to use.
And I'd say from the port side, sorry, that was the other thing I'm trying to think, there's one other thing I wanted to say, but we've worked with them, so they had terrible forest fires a couple of years ago, and there were huge areas within the Douro Valley that got destroyed, so we've helped them replant 2,000 trees through sales of our port, and we've actually done some replanting for some of the trees that didn't grow this year, and it's something that we'll continue to support. So there's certainly a lot of projects, like I mentioned as well, with the garnacha, supporting non-irrigated, dry farmed vines that aren't sort of just on big trellises and given loads of water when we're facing into climate change. The Leda Valley Sauvignon, where it's all powered by solar powers. There's so many decisions that we try and make, and we're actively doing with producers to make them as sustainable as possible.
That's fab. And I would just add on as well, just to remember that in the summer, we introduced our soft plastics recycling hubs in store. So if you have got, as you're buying products, you have got soft plastics, you can pop back in again. So all those kind of films and wraps that you can't normally recycle, bring them back into store, look for the hubs in our stores, and you can recycle those, and we'll do that for you as well. So great opportunities to become more sustainable just by using us over Christmas.
They don't need to be co-op. You can bring anybody's soft plastics back.
No, that's the great thing. Don't not just co-op stuff. So bring anybody's to us. We'll definitely recycle it for you. Okay. So thank you very much to Philippa for that one. Cracking on. Let me just have a quick look. Alison has asked us, could you recommend Prosecco or champagne drinks that you, and particularly ones that you have on offer at the moment?
Yep, so definitely recommend, like I said before, our Le Pionnier champagne. But if you fancy something a bit different, we've also got an English sparkling wine made down in Kent. That's a rosé, and that is beautiful. It's like sparkling rhubarb. And if you like something like a rosé champagne, it might be interesting for you to try something that's closer to home. Have a taste of that. Do you meaning in terms of cocktails or?
I think so. I think
right,
anything, as long as it's.
Anything, if you've got sort of like a damson liqueur or something just to add a splash of that, or a gin liqueur, we do some great ones. We've got the pineapple one that you guys also got involved with. Try a splash of that, and then you've automatically got a fruity cocktail with a Prosecco base, which is nice and easy to throw together.
What's the name of the rhubarb English sparkling wine?
It's
rhubarb flavoured.
It's our Irresistible sparkling Hattingley Valley sparkling wine. Yeah.
Fab.
Great stuff. Hazel, you asked about, thank you for your question, asked about desserts for celiacs, and I'll probably add on as well, Roland was talking about desserts, good desserts for diabetics as well. So I guess that sort of whole, how do we help to support people who need that extra bit of help?
Yeah, so we have a really growing range of free-from products. Quite a lot of what we do is try and make our range as accessible as possible. Obviously, the co-ops aren't quite as big as your kind of big box retailers, so we work within the confines of the space that we have. But we have alternates across mince pies, Christmas puddings, and lots of kind of stocking fillers for the kids that are not milk-free but gluten-free options across the board to have a look at. But it's definitely something we kind of continue to work through as we go build the ranges.
Fab, thank you. Eleanor, thank you for your question. She's cooking for 5 and has one person who is vegan. Can you help?
Yeah, so it depends what you're after, I guess. There's obviously lots of great meat alternatives available in the co-op and other supermarkets that make a good centrepiece, but if you're after something that's perhaps a bit more vegetable-based, I can never say that word properly, but cooking vegetables in the same way as you would meats almost, so getting a butternut squash and stuffing it in the middle and roasting it that way is delicious. And yeah, generally speaking, just approach, I guess, larger vegetables in the same way as meat, roasting them, putting marinades on them is for me really delicious. But yeah, there's new grow fake turkeys though this year.
Yeah.
Which is delicious in store. So yeah, depends what you like, but either of those options.
Great stuff. Thank you. Oh, did you want to say that? No, you're okay, Rachel? Okay, back to drinks again. Sarah, Janet Gregory, what drink would you recommend with Christmas pudding? She doesn't like strong liqueurs like brandy or whiskey.
I would definitely recommend trying the PX sherry, but also the Tawny port. So, because both of them because they're aged for a long time in old wood, you've got this sort of oxidative character that gives you lots of dried fruit aromas and flavours, and that will work really well with both of them.
Fab, thank you. And the next one, from Nicola. Thanks, Nicola Burns, for your question. Any suggestions for Christmas Day dessert for one? Not an individual Christmas pudding, please.
So I'll let Dan think of a recipe for a serves one, but I would recommend maybe a melt-in-the-middle pudding. We do a twin pack Irresistible, which is a really luxurious Belgian chocolate with a kind of liquid chocolate centre. One for Christmas Day, maybe one for a few days later when you've got some more appetite for it. That would be my recommendation. But Dan, have you got any recipes for a serves one?
Yeah, I'm trying to think. For me, some sort of trifle. I think there's all sort of flavours you can go with. They're pretty easy to put together. I perhaps have to come back to me on a serves one. I'm trying to think of an alternative one.
A mince pie or something.
Yeah, it depends what flavours you're after, I guess. But yeah, a mince pie kind of trifle works really well. I'll have a think. Perhaps a bit more detail on what they're looking for would help.
No problem. Adam Cran. Thanks, Adam, for your question. Is asking Sarah, does the Co-op have any zero or low alcohol alternatives?
Yes, we do. Sorry, I did mean to mention that at the beginning. So we've got an Irresistible sort of non-gin and tonic, which you'll find it's with our cordial range. So if you're looking for where it is in the shop, it comes in a tall bottle. We've also got no secco. And I think we've tried as a team because it's quite difficult to find something that's quite convincing and has a good flavour profile if you normally enjoy wine or and you're pregnant or you're driving. But no secco is probably the closest we found, and it's obviously from the name you can tell it's supposed to be as close to Prosecco as possible. But that's also an alternative, and that's in all our stores.
I've thought of one dessert.
Go for it.
Yeah, a bit different to, I guess, these flavours, but something that I often make at home, which is really simple and quick and easy, although you do have to make it the night before and set it in the fridge, is a lemon posset, or you can make Clementine Pasta. So best to follow recipe because I can't give you exact measurements, but basically just lemon juice, sugar and cream, and you simmer that for a little bit and then just pour it into a glass. And like I said, you can use clementine juice and some zest in there, set it in a bowl or a glass or whatever, and yeah, you can just use one portion. It's really easy to make, and it will just go into almost like a curd-like consistency, and serve that with a bit of shortbread. That's really delicious, or a bit of pomegranate on top.
Great stuff. I hope that helps you for that one. Last couple of questions now, because we're quickly running out of time. Any vegan cheeses available?
Yeah, so we've got our, like I said earlier, the Grow vegan cheese bake. So this has got roasted red pepper through it, spring onion and some jalapeno. So it's sort of medium spicy, but it's really cheesy, delicious. And yeah, we're looking to kind of expand that vegan offering, but that's what we've got this year, and definitely worth buying it in store because it's delicious.
Fab, thank you. Roland Davis, thanks for your question. And sorry, we've kept you waiting because this was one of the earlier questions. Is there any occasion where you could drink a chilled, sweeter white wine with lamb?
Well, like I say, it's what you enjoy. So by all means, if that's what you like, go for it. Generally, sweet wines work well with sweet food, and the idea is you want your wine to be sweeter or as sweet as your dessert, so it balances. But perhaps a sweet wine would work if you're doing more of a spicy lamb dish, like a tagine or even a lamb curry. Let me know how you get on, but by all means, enjoy it. Yeah.
Fab, thank you. And actually connected to that, any suggestions for sweet dessert wines?
Yeah, so other than the ports and the sherry, we do have a fair trade pink Moscato. So that's a slightly sparkling pink rosé wine. Moscato sort of has flavours of grapes. It works really well with fruity desserts, and it's low in alcohol. It's only 5.5% as well, so it's something quite easy, or even a nice starter on a Christmas morning, sort of breakfast wine. But that works well with sort of more fruity desserts as well. Yeah.
Christmas morning at your house.
Yes, come round.
And let me just quickly check we've got everybody covered on that one. Right, okay, I'm going to finish on this last one. And Liam, thank you for this, and we need everybody to answer this particular one. I know my answer is absolutely yes, but the question is, do Yorkshire puddings go in a Christmas dinner?
No, absolutely not.
Controversial.
Yes, I think they do. There's no place that they belong, but perhaps not the traditionalists.
haven't tried it, but I'm going to have to now.
What's yours, Mark?
Absolutely. I can't come from Yorkshire and not have Yorkshire pudding in pretty much everything, so I'm going to be all right with that. Cool. Okay. Thank you very much for answering those questions, and thank you for your questions, everybody. We're just going to wrap up now in the last few minutes, if that's okay. So we're going to announce the winners of the prize draw. If I can find the message. Oh, I can find the message. Thanks very much to Claire, who's helping me find all this work. So the prize draw, we've got 5 £20 gift vouchers that will get sent out to you tomorrow and that we can have with you for Christmas. So hopefully we'll help you on your Christmas, your festivities. So the 5 lucky winners, first off is Janet Gregory. So well done, Janet. And you asked a question, so that's great as well. Louise Toomey. Twomey, Toomey. Louise, you've won one. Gary Jordan, Gina Taylor, and I'm glad we kept your question to the very end. Roland Davis, you also got that, so thank you very much for that. Hopefully, one of the team has either been in touch, or if they've not already been in touch with you on the Zoom chat, if you want to contact Claire Co-op on the Zoom chat, you should be able to click on the little discussion and choose a private message to Claire. But I'm just looking to Terry, who's behind the camera, to see if have we got everybody's details. Yeah. Fab. So thank you very much, everybody, for being involved with that. That's great stuff. It would be remiss of me as well not to talk about other things that you can get involved with in terms of our Christmas activities. First of all, if you go onto our join in pages at coop.co.uk join in, we've got a special Christmas activity where you can we've got one more day left, so if you get that in tomorrow, you'll be entered into the draw. We're giving away a £10, which is just helping people to get together over food. So you could use that £10 to support your food for Christmas. You can get some friends and you can use that £10 to support them and to get together and take some time, or you can support a local food bank or community fridge as part of that. So head to the web pages and you'll be able to find that opportunity. The other one is, which I think is much more exciting, is we're also developing, and these folks are also developing, our next festive Christmas sandwich for 2022. So we haven't even hit 2021, we're already looking at 2022. So again, if you look to the join-in pages or go to the membership dashboard, you can find it there. Or if you're on our app, you can find it there as well. You can jump in and let us know more about what you think about our Christmas sandwiches and help to design those sandwiches next year. So if you've got a really random flavour combination that you'd love to see on our shelves, make sure you get involved and put that forward. It's remiss of me as well from the membership team to just remind everybody that it's a great opportunity to use your membership over Christmas. Particularly, I'd encourage you all to download the app where you can get more information about your personalised offers. Lots of offers going on over the Christmas period to support you, all personalised to the types of shopping that you do. So make sure you get your app and have a look on that. It's also a brilliant place because you can choose your local community cause to support. So every time you shop, some money goes towards your local causes and you get to choose which causes get that. So a brilliant opportunity. Use that opportunity and use your membership wisely. And have a look in the Discovery tab for loads of recipes, activities, and particularly as well for the join-in activities over Christmas as well to get involved in those. It only leaves me really to say a huge thank you to our experts who have been phenomenally busy tonight, and thanks very much for all those questions. Huge thanks for my team who've been helping to pull all this work forward and have been behind the scenes, to Claire, to Becky and to Terry for pulling that all together. And finally to you as our members, thanks for joining in again. We really do appreciate your time and we hope you enjoy the time you have with us as members of Co-op. It leaves me to say have a fantastic Christmas. We look forward to seeing you next year. Hope everybody stays safe and has a wonderful time over the festivities. Thanks very much, everybody, and we'll see you in 2022.